like that would not be cool.
All right, we are live.
Yay!
Hooray!
Oh, something's
We are
happening on
going,
YouTube.
yes,
There we are. Oh, that's so weird.
I know. So, we're gonna hang out for just a few minutes and let people jump on.
I could
Oh.
probably just bring up, just as a repeat of the email we just sent out, some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
Includes talking about fiber preferences and some of the misconceptions people make when they first start working with fiber, and even sometimes when they've been working with fiber for a long time. We're going to talk about superwash wool because I know that's a really fun, hot button topic for everybody right now. And Sarah's
Oh
got some good
yeah.
stuff on that. So, got some good stuff lined up for you guys today. I'm excited.
Yes. So, um, if anybody is here, go ahead and say something in the comments section. I'll say something in the comments section because I'm here.
Ask me a question that is a really challenging one so that I don't know how to answer it.
All right.
And just so everybody, and I'll repeat this as we get some more viewers on, but just so everybody knows, we are going to leave some time at the end of the live show for you guys to ask questions, because that's part of what is so cool about the fiber arts community is all of the sharing. So if you guys have any comments or want to ask us anything specific about what we're covering today, we will definitely be adding some time at the end for you guys to do that.
Yeah, I'm just going to check Facebook really quick. Make sure my links work, because that would stink if my links didn't work.
Yay,
Rude.
technology.
Okay.
Yeah, Sarah has lots of animals that you might see throughout the show, and I have three small children running around my house that no promises. We might have an interruption.
Okay. So, alrighty. Well, I think we could get started. So,
Sounds good.
I think, I
So
think.
let's do the intro first. In case you are joining us for the first time and you literally have no clue who these people are that are on your screen, I'm Tori, and my lovely best friend Sarah is on with me, and we are the owners slash designers behind Feathertail Fiber Arts. If you've never heard of us before, you can check out our website at feathertailfiberarts.com, and we have lots of good stuff on there with more info. We've been in business for over 3 years now, which is really exciting. As
I
far
can't
as
believe it's
I'm
been that
concerned,
long.
I know it's insane. I'm a full time mom of three under five. I have been an author slash speaker for over a decade. I can't, it's something. I was 14 when I started, and I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to forget how old I am. So, over a decade, and I'm also a birth doula on the side, besides doing Feathertail Fiber Arts as my side business. Um, a fact about me is that my favorite TV show of all time is Survivor, and I love it. For any nerds out there, my two favorite contestants are Boston Rob and Ozzy. They're amazing. And I'm a complete trivia nut. I love researching, I love learning about pretty much anything. So that's me in a nutshell.
All right. And I'm not as commonly on the live scene, but I am here today. My name is Sarah, and I when I'm not doing Feathertail Fiber Arts, I am a traditional and digital artist, um, musician, songwriter, and I'm the owner of Sparrow Springs. So I've kind of taken a step back a little bit from Feathertail, kind of more recent times to spend some more time on that business. I have an overabundance of animals, one of which is here with me now because she's a tick. But I have an overabundance of animals, including a horse, a dog, two cats, a rabbit, and a husband.
Poor David.
I think he's okay. And
So, Sarah,
yeah,
if you had to live off of one food for your entire lifetime, what would it be?
I would have to say mashed potatoes.
Solid choice.
I love mashed potatoes. I know it's not like the most nutritious thing, but I think that's the one I could eat the longest without getting tired of it immediately.
I think that's a pretty short list for me. I like variety in my food.
Ah, you know. All right, so
Okay,
that's our
so
intro.
go ahead if you had anything to add to that. Otherwise, I was
No.
just gonna say the whole point of us putting together this live show, and we're gonna mix it up. We have a lot of cool ideas for this show. This is kind of a kickoff to see how it goes, what you guys think of it. Um, the whole point of this is we love really bringing the community together with fiber arts topics, and there are so many things that we can talk about and learn from each other, and we're going to be pulling from sources all over to help you guys um, kind of solidify, okay, if we're going to talk about a specific topic, here's a bunch of resources that you can look up. After watching the show, you can go and do some research on your own, do some challenges, projects. So we really wanted to just continue to educate and to bring that community into our group, and hopefully to some new people on the great wide web.
Yeah, so we have roughly an hour slotted out. I don't know if we're going to go that long, and if we have some questions and not whatnot at the end, we'll have time for that at the end. For now, if we want to jump into it.
Yeah. So one of the things that was kind of the first topic we talked about, including in this right away, was the idea of comparison, and kind of this everybody has fiber preferences, right? I mean, I love Leicester Longwool right now, and I love BFL, and I have certain things that I prefer to spin. I have certain fleeces I prefer to dye. There's a lot of I think if you ask any random fiber artist, they're going to immediately have, oh, this one's my favorite, or a short list of their favorites. Having fiber preferences is completely normal, and that I think is really cool when we can talk about our favorites and why we like them so much. But one thing that I really encourage people to avoid is that it kind of goes from preference to this comparison game, where people will say, like, well, I like, and I'm going to pick on merino for right now, and I have some nice merino fleeces, so no offense to merino, but just as an example, I love merino. I tried Leicester Longwool once, but it wasn't merino, so I just, it wasn't really my favorite. And I hear that all the time. And I've worked with selling wool, and I get hundreds of fleeces in each year. So I've seen a ton of different breeds and a ton of different types in each breed. And people say that all the time. Well, it isn't this. It's BFL, and I didn't really like it because it's not like alpaca or whatever. And when you do that, you've immediately cheated the fiber, because I take a step back and I look at it and I say, okay, so alpaca is not wool. That's a basic concept, right? So when I ask it to be wool, it's going to underperform, and it's going to disappoint me, because it has completely different properties and completely different uses sometimes than wool, depending on what your project is. And this kind of goes back to, I grew up on an alpaca farm for the last half of my childhood, which was an amazing experience, and it really kind of solidified my start into the fiber arts world. And I was fiber snob. Okay, I was like alpaca elitist to the max, where when I first started spinning, my attitude was, if it's not alpaca, I'm not going to touch it, because I was so caught in this, like, alpaca is the only thing I ever want to spin ever. And it's fine that I was, had kind of a soft spot for it because I grew up around it. But I was immediately excluding all other fibers because they weren't alpaca. You know what I mean? So that's something that I really encourage people when they start working in fiber. Don't compare unless you are looking at a specific project and you're saying, okay, does this fiber work better for this project that I need it for than this fiber? That's an okay comparison. But what you don't want to do is say, well, I just don't really like this particular fiber because it doesn't behave the way this fiber does. And I like this one better. So, as a visual aid, I came prepared today. One of
All
the things
right,
that
prepared.
I know, right? So I have a couple of just basic to me. And when I look at two different types of wool, this is a probably 14 or 15 micron Australian merino. It is ridiculously soft, very airy. It's got a ton of sproing, as I like to call it. It's very bouncy fiber. And then I have this lovely BFL lamb lock. And you can
I love the
immediately
BFL.
see it's amazing stuff. And this stuff for dyeing, I will take the BFL over the merino any day because the BFL takes way less dye. It has more of a vibrancy. It's harder to get the merino as easily saturated as something like a BFL or a Leicester Longwool is an even better one for dyeing because it has a luster in it that you just cannot match. I mean, it's amazing stuff. Similar to Teeswater, Wensleydale, a lot of the breeds that you see people dyeing a lot in the industry right now. So when I look at these two different fibers, if I expect merino to behave the same way and have the same characteristics as BFL, I'm going to be disappointed in it because it isn't the same thing. Just like even as close as the merino would be to say like a Wakaya alpaca, they have some similarities, but they're also different as well. Alpaca doesn't have lanolin in it, for example. And people always say, oh, it's so nice because high lanolin fleeces are a pain to wash. Absolutely true. Okay, sometimes it's hard to get all of the stickiness out of those fleeces, which is why you should have a really good wool scour. But alpaca, also on the opposite side of that, there's no lanolin to get out, but alpaca is like Velcro when it comes to dust. And sometimes that can even be harder to get out. So, I mean, it really depends on what am I going to use this for in a project? What kind of an experience am I looking for? Am I looking for something that I'm going to have to work at and I'm going to feel really good at the end of it because I've gotten all of this, dust and dirt out of this fleece and it's going to be a beautiful thing at the end? Then you're going to be okay with that. For me, I have so little time with the kids and the business and everything to work on fiber arts that when I do, I want a clean, easy experience because I don't want to have to struggle through it because then I don't feel like I've really had relaxing me time. So it really depends on your level of comfort. I don't know if Sarah, do you have anything to add? I know I've been spouting
Oh
off
no,
quite a bit
that's
here. I
totally
don't.
fine. Just real quick, if you guys are here live, just leave a bit in the comments and whatnot, and say hi,
Say
introduce
hi.
yourself.
Absolutely. We
um,
love meeting the people who are involved in our community. So please drop us a note and say hi so we know that you're watching.
yes, and I like what you talked about just with um the not expecting a fiber to be something it's not, sort of thing. Now when I started spinning, like, I didn't have the resources to try all the things that I wanted to. So I actually started spinning off of my dog first. And like, there a lot of people have kind of like that ew factor to that, where it's like, oh, I wouldn't want to spin off of my pet. But I also know that there's a lot of people that have no problem with that at all. So I know for myself, it was nice to be able to have something where I didn't have to spend a ton of money on like something super, super nice to just learn to spin. And then I found out some things about spinning dog hair that, dog hair actually has characteristics unique, like even from like wool and alpaca and whatnot. So
Mhm.
like it has when you spin dog hair, it's more commonly known, I guess, in the fiber industry as Angora, and you'll get like a halo effect, kind of like you would with Angora. And it's also because the follicles in Angora is hollow, you will get more warmth from it, but you won't get the same like memory and whatnot. But just if I were to come at spinning dog hair, like with the same expectations of like spinning wool and whatnot, obviously I would be very disappointed.
Yeah,
But
I think dog hair and wool. I don't know about you because you've spun both of them now. I've never spun dog hair yet, but um, those I think those two things are about as far on the spectrum. Like if you're looking at a long wool versus dog hair, I think that's a pretty wide
yeah,
extreme, one end
yeah.
to the
Well,
other.
and the funny thing is, you'll get just as much variety off of different dogs as you would off of
Mm-hmm.
different breeds of sheep. So, like, there's my dog is he's a collie husky mix, so he has like that undercoat. So the undercoat, when he was like a puppy, it was so soft. Like I know, like you talk about alpaca soft sort of thing, and it's like this was as soft as some of the nicest alpaca I had seen at that point.
Which
But
actually brings me really to another point that I wanted to bring up with this, that micron count is something that you'll see a lot of people go on and on and on about in forums and in books and stuff. And so, micron count, for those who are not familiar with that term, is just basically the number of crimps per inch. So, for example, let's see if I can show you guys this. This merino, as you can see, has a ton of those tiny little, almost zigzag crimp in it, and it's very fine. So this has a low micron count. So that's the softer. A lot of times you'll hear the lower the micron count. Now something like a BFL, you can see the crimp is a little bit broader and not as close together as the merino, so it's going to be a higher micron count. So where the merino might be probably, let's just say 15 micron, this BFL is probably something closer to like a 26 to 28, I would guess. Um, Now, what's interesting about micron, and this is something that I have seen over and over with all of the different fleeces that I've worked with, is that micron count does not equal handle, and it does not equal wearability. That's another thing you'll see, is that people will say, oh, is it 15 micron or 20 micron or less than 20 micron, because I can't wear anything above that. And some people are genuinely sensitive to wool and have allergies to it, but you'll find that a lot of times people who are sensitive to wool, it's more what's in the fiber. Because if you have a merino like this and it's 15 micron, but it has a ton of really tiny VM or veggie matter trapped in the locks, and you don't get that all out when you're spinning, that honestly is going to cause more irritation than the fiber itself, if that makes sense. So when you're looking at micron count, I have a really good example of this actually. This fiber right here is a Wensleydale lamb that I purchased last year, and it is so soft, and it's 100% next to skin wearable. Now, this is going to be a higher micron count than this, but as I'm feeling them, to be perfectly honest with you, the softness factor is very similar. Even though this may be, even a probably 24 to 26. And this one, I don't know the micron count exactly, but as I'm testing it for wearability and I'm feeling it on my wrist, on both, it's completely wearable. Now, this has a very silky handle, and I think that's an important distinction to make. You can have something that's like the soft, warm teddy bear fuzzy handle, like a merino or a Wakaya alpaca. But a lot of times with the long wools, like a Wensleydale or even a Leicester long wool, I've had a couple really soft fleeces of those as well. those definitely can have almost a silky softness. So it's a different type of handle, but it, in my opinion, is just as wearable as the merino. So it really depends on, and one of the reasons why I prefer working with cleaner fleeces is because you don't run as much of a risk of having a ton of extra VM trapped in the locks that can irritate your skin. So that was something that I wanted to bring up too, because I see that all the time. This talk about micron count is everywhere, and people only want low micron. So I really encourage people not to judge a fleece by its micron count.
Yes.
Judge it by it, right? Judge it by its cleanliness and the lock structure. Don't necessarily buy based on micron count, because I've had several fleeces like this one that are not a 15 micron merino, and I honestly, this is just as soft. So
I'm glad you brought that
it's
up about
hard.
the cleanliness though, because I don't know about you guys, but one of the things that I struggle with is okay, if you have something with a lower micron count, okay, the follicle, is a lot thinner, and then all of a sudden you have to worry about integrity. And
Mm-hmm.
the um if you have a low micron fleece that's really dirty, you have to go through more processing. And if it has that thinner follicle, it's not going to stand up to the processing as much as if you had something with a slightly higher micron. So I think it was a 19 micron Debule fleece, and I think that video is actually still on our channel of me processing it. But because it was a lower micron and it was quite dirty, I think I had to comb through that several times. And from combing it and washing it, or even if you're carding, if you have to process it, you'll end up breaking the staple more often and you'll get more neps. So it's like the lower the micron, the more susceptible it is to nepping, and you won't get, I guess if you're going for a smoother yarn, the nepping is awful. If you're doing something more of like an art yarn, it doesn't matter as much. But the cleanliness, does the follicle structure um, actually support the idea of being able to process it all the way to get it to where you're satisfied with the cleanliness?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that really feeds into the idea of our second main topic that I sent out in the email, which is the application of things. Um,
Before
when
you
you're
go on
buying,
to that,
yeah,
can we talk really, really quick about the sources, like judging a fleece based on your sources, sort of thing?
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you want me to do this? Well, we had this kind of taking a step back really quick, just talking about like experiences with different fleece and expecting certain things. I know a lot of people will make a judgment on an entire breed or an entire type of fiber based off of one fleece.
Mm-hmm.
So I know especially with alpaca, this is really, really bad because it's
Yes.
hard to find good alpaca. So I see people all the time like, oh my gosh, I hate alpaca because I had this one fleece that I bought for like $7 a pound off of eBay, and it was all of these yarn meters, and it was awful. And
Yep.
like, if I had to judge my entire experience with alpaca based off of some of the fleeces I got off eBay, I would never spin it ever.
Right. Oh yeah. And Sarah and I actually bought that fleece together, and I know the one you're talking
Oh.
about, the rose gray.
Yeah,
And
I still have it because I can't get rid of it.
so one of the things, as somebody who grew up around alpacas, and I'm very familiar with good alpaca fleece, I have had my hands on so many different alpacas. We used to go to all the shows, and I wanted to be an alpaca judge in the worst way. I still kind of do, so we'll see if that ever happens. But I was constantly feeling everybody's alpacas. Like I would just go up and down the rows and ask people if I could look at the fleece and feel the fleece and check it out. And talked to a bunch or a couple of the alpaca judges at length that were in the industry at that point. Barbosa was one. And I have really been sad to see people who go out and they try alpaca and then they come and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't understand what all the fuss is about. Why is this so much more expensive? And honestly, a lot of the times it shouldn't be. To me, a really good wool and a really good alpaca fleece have the potential to bring the same amount of money. I don't see why that should not be the case. Um, because again, if you have an absolutely stellar representation of a specific wool breed, it should be priced higher than the average because it's a really good fleece. Same with alpaca. But I think there's kind of been this stigma about alpaca just as a rule being so much better than wool. And I don't really know, better is kind of a vague term on purpose because I don't
Very
know.
vague.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's completely different. And that goes back to our comparison discussion. It's completely different. It's a completely different fiber. I mean, alpaca is a hair fiber, just like it's structured the same as human hair, whereas wool is completely a different structure. So they're not even structured the same way. I mean, the fact that you can put them both under fiber, it's kind of a very blanket umbrella term. Um, but that's one of the big reasons why I really encourage people who are buying wool and they want to try, especially people that want to try a new breed, don't buy one fleece and judge the whole on that. If you can, find a source that allows you to try multiple fleeces at once. This is one of the reasons why I designed the Fiber Experience box, because I saw a need for that for people who wanted to say, try Icelandic. Well, Icelandic, the difference just between an adult fleece and a lamb fleece is drastically different. I've got some Icelandic lamb fleeces downstairs that are super soft and feel very much like an almost like a Wakaya alpaca fleece as far as the handle. And then I've got some really beautifully structured adult fleeces that are definitely a stronger handle, not quite as soft or next to skin. But these fleeces are beautiful, and lock spun, they would be absolutely stunning, even dyed. So, really, when you're going to try a new breed, try multiple sources to start with if you can, or find a source that is willing to let you try an adult fleece, a lamb fleece, and a couple of each of those so that you have a better idea. And even if you can get them from different farms, to me, that's an even better thing, because then you can see, how different farms are raising wool that can say the same breed name, but be drastically different in how they behave and how they feel. So that's my spiel as a wool as a wool dealer. Like, don't. It's hard too, because I know we don't want to spend a ton of money when we don't know if we're gonna like the breed. We don't want to spend $100 to get eight, however many fleeces. That wouldn't get you 8 fleeces. That's a very low estimate. I don't know where that came from. Okay, for 8 fleeces, if you want to spend like $300 and get 8 fleeces,
I guess okay, it depends on the breed, I suppose. I mean, if
right.
you're looking to get 8 different Teeswater fleeces, I would say you're nuts, but
Yeah, you might get 2 pounds of Teeswater fleece for $100 if you're lucky. But that's again, if your point is that you want to try dyeing fleece and you're looking and you see that everybody's dyeing Teeswater because it's an amazing thing, look for wool that behaves like Teeswater or similarly to Teeswater, and it's going to be less expensive typically, and you'll get much the same results because it's going to behave the same way. So, for example, if you're going to start dyeing, some of the ones that I've really been enjoying, Leicester long wool to me, or an English Leicester, is a fabulous dyeing fleece. It has an insane amount of luster. The colors, you can get such vibrant colors with it that it's insane. So it is similar to Teeswater in that way, but it is less expensive. And Border luster is another one that I've been testing because that's even less expensive typically than the luster long wool because it's a slightly shorter staple. Um, but it still has the ability to have a nice amount of luster and depth of color to it. Now, if you're going to start dyeing, don't start with something like this because this will suck up
Oh,
your dye
yeah.
like crazy. And it takes a lot more dye and a lot more time to get something like this to saturate all the way through
Mhm.
than you would have with a long wool. So, and not to say you can't do it, but don't start with that. Like, I never recommend people start with merino on pretty much anything just because when you have a fiber like this, the micron count is amazing and it's super soft and airy and wonderful. But it's kind of persnickety. It takes more babying than a long wool fleece. If I were to put this in the dye pot and or even washing it and put my hands in it and scrunch it at all, it's gonna felt. I mean, this stuff, alpaca is kind of the same way. It's gonna felt way more easily than a long wool will because that handles a lot more um, agitation than the finer fibers. So
Well, we've been kind of peppering this video so far with different applications. So why don't we actually talk more in depth about that?
yes. So one of the things that I've been amazed at the number of people who have been spinning for a length of time who have never tried actually spinning just a fleece, a washed or raw fleece. A lot of times, I have people talk to me all the time that have been spinning commercial top, and that's pretty much all they spin. And if you love commercial top, that's totally fine. But what I think is interesting about that is that commercial top was not ever actually designed for hand spinning, which seems weird because it's so prevalent in the industry right now. But commercial roving and top was originally designed for mills to have an ease of spinning with the machine. So these are designed for machine spinning. Um, and that's why I really encourage people to grow, whether you've, I mean, I tell everybody, if you haven't spun it yet, try it. If you've never spun commercial top, try it. It's an interesting way to look at the differences and to really challenge you as a spinner to see, okay, this handles completely differently at a wheel or a spindle than a raw fleece, this commercial top. How are they different? Which one is easier for me to spin? Which one, how do I prepare them differently? And then you can come to a place where you can say, okay, I prefer commercial top because X, you know. Um, so I still remember going to my first guild kind of spin in guild meeting, and I just had a bag of fiber that was washed, and I sat it next to my wheel and I started spinning. And I remember the lady sitting next to me turning, and she was looking at me really funny, and she said, you can just spin from the bag." And it totally blew my mind. I'd never even thought of that being weird to people that have never spun just a fleece because it always has to be prepped in some way. So I really challenge people, try the whole gamut. Start with the raw fleece and go all the way to commercial top. Try everything and then start figuring out for what you want to do, what makes the most sense. Which does lead me back from my tangent to application. So I was going, Tori's on a tangent. Okay. So when you have an application in mind, so for example, I want to make, if I'm going to look for something to dye, we've kind of talked about that already. I'm going to go for a long wool, and that I can use in felting, needle felting or wet felting. I can use it for lock spinning. People use them in weaving. If I want to make a baby sweater, I'm probably not going to be using a adult Icelandic fleece or an adult Leicester long wool fleece because of the stronger handle. And again, this isn't one is better than the other. It's just different uses. And that's one of
Hmm.
the things I'm really trying to get people to rethink is that it's not one is better than the other. It's just completely different applications. And I have seen some Leicester long wool that I would not personally spin just because it's so strong that I don't know that it would be a super enjoyable experience. But they make some of the most beautiful rugs and like the sheepskin chair covers, and things that you're not gonna don't expect it to be a baby sweater because it's not gonna perform then. But I wouldn't also say that I would use this, which also surprises some people. You could definitely obviously make a baby sweater out of merino. That's not the point. But what I know about merino is that it's much more likely to nep or have little breaks in the fiber if I'm processing it a lot. And as soon as I go to wash this, if I'm not super, super careful, it's going to pill unless I've spun it in a really tight worsted. Um, it's going to not handle a lot of washing as well as a slightly stronger breed like a medium wool, like a Polworth or a Corriedale. Um, and with kids, I'd make myself a sweater out of this that I would wear at Christmas parties or something. but um, but for my kids, I don't know about anybody else's kids, but my kids get messy all the time. And of course, you think, oh, I'll make my 7-month-old this really pretty church sweater out of merino. And it's this 15 micron wonderful thing. And you go to church and she throws up down the front of the shirt and the sweater, the first thing. And then you have to wash it and you have to get a stain out. And if you scrub
Oh,
that,
like what makes you think that kids equal stains? Come on.
oh, my kids equal stains. I can't speak to anybody else's, but as a general rule, I would assume if you expect to have kids and no stains, yeah,
You
you're
got
in for
another
a
thing coming.
rude awakening.
Oh,
so
yeah.
so anyway, that's my thing about application is I think typically we see that fiber artists, we tend to be hoarders. Let's be honest, I'm
Yes.
totally in that category where I see something really pretty on raw wool for sale or at a farm and I have to have it. I'm like, oh, I can't let anybody buy this fleece because it's just so beautiful. If I don't have it, I just won't be able to sleep at night. And so we just buy and collect all of this amazing wool. And part of the fun of it is just the texture part where we can just sit and pet it for a while. But um, really looking at what am I going to use this for? If you don't have a specific project in mind, one of the greatest things to do is take a little index card and look at the breed and say, I have a Corriedale fleece, and I'm going to write Corriedale. And underneath that, I'm going to write some of the characteristics that make Corriedale an awesome wool. So it has good memory. It's not going to be as likely to pill or get damaged as a merino would be, a finer merino. So just kind of writing down some of the characteristics of that wool and putting the card in with the fleece so that when I'm ready to start a project and I say, okay, I want to make a sweater for my baby, then I can go and say, oh yeah, I had that Corriedale fleece and the characteristics fit this perfectly. So that's something that I think really is helpful too, that even if you're buying, because we all do it, we're going to buy fleeces without projects in mind. That's just part of being a fiber artist. I think we see
Yeah.
we see pretty things and we just have to have them in our wool stash. So that's something that I highly recommend to people that have a big stash is write cards about what it would be good for and stick it in the bag.
I don't know about you, but my husband is very, very patient with me because, when I first started, it's like, okay, when we were in our apartment, I had like a corner of our 1 bedroom apartment that was like, okay, this is all I'm going to have for like my supplies and whatnot. And then we bought our house. It's like, okay, everything's going upstairs in my studio. And then next thing, it's like, well, I'll just have it in the studio and a little bit in this room too. And then I started dyeing fiber. It's like, well, I'll just have it up in the studio, in this little bedroom, and some stuff in the kitchen. And now I think I've dominated several portions of the house.
Yes, we have I have an entire basement warehouse of wools downstairs with all the fiber boxes, fiber experience boxes, and all of the wools for my wool sales and dyed blocks. And I've taken over some of the kitchen cupboards. So you open a cupboard in my bathroom and you'll see hand carders or a drum carder. So, you know, I just kind of put it where it fits, right?
Oh yeah, wherever it fits.
One of the things that I think is really interesting is superwash wool is such a hot button topic for a lot of people in some of the groups we're in right now. And Sarah had a really interesting article that she found about it that she wanted to share. So I'm going to turn it over to you so you can tell people about superwash wool.
All right. So I know Superwash has kind of gotten a bad rap recently because like people are going more towards like eco-friendly, chemical-free, and those are all fine, like fine reasons. But I think what people don't understand is that even with something like Superwash, it has its application. There's a specific reason for it. So when we get done with this video, I'll make sure I link the um, this article in the description. But this article is talking about pretty much how much superwash has been a huge contribution to the wool industry. So this is just a couple little blurbs from the article. The military purchases 20% of the American wool clip. That is a large percentage. That is a lot of sheep farmers who are benefiting from just this 20%. However, they are able to do so now because wool can be superwashed. It makes wool viable for combat clothing in almost every application, including jackets, pants, underwear, headwear, gloves, and socks. The reintroduction of superwash process and the Buy American movement has increased the interest and commitment of the American wool sock industry to buying American wool. Commercial textile and knitting firms in the U.S. buy U.S. top and wool because they can buy it domestic and have the entire process done in America. This as well benefits the Department of Defense as they can purchase all American-made products with shorter lead times, reduce freight costs, and purchase smaller quantities. Superwash has opened new markets and created more demand for American wool. So we have so much of the demand for wool in the fiber industry now because of this, because the military buys so much wool and specifically to superwash it. I mean, we have so much more resources because people are providing for that. So, like, I think that in itself is amazing to me because even though we don't personally use superwash, I personally wouldn't use it because to me, the chemical process takes so much character out of the fleece. But I'm not going to sit there and say, why do we even have it? Because it is such a huge part. That's 1/5 of the industry right there.
Mm-hmm. Which is really important. And again, goes back to the comparison and application topics that we were going into. And to say, would I personally make a superwash, would I want to spin superwash wool? And I know a lot of people do. I personally don't because it doesn't have that. It feels like it's kind of haven't had the life taken out of it to me, where I prefer to reach into a bag and grab this very, alive, wonderful, textured thing right out of the bag. But it again depends on the application. If I expect the superwash merino commercial braid to be raw fiber, it's going to underperform because it's not. It's something that, for the application of the military, just as one example, is it totally makes sense why that would be more helpful to them because obviously they don't have time to sit and hand wash all of their garments for an hour every day. So,
well, and even for moms, if they choose to do that, if they want to be able to machine wash
right.
an actual fiber without having to go like completely acrylic, that's an awesome alternative.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So again, that goes back to the comparison and application, and I think it fits in really well. So Sarah and I will definitely link that article down in the description box. Um, as far as that's kind of the topics that we wanted to make sure we got through today, because we both of us are, I think, very passionate about those are the first ones that came up when we were talking, brainstorming ideas of what to talk about on the show to start with. And so if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment in the chat box on the side of the video and let us know, what do you guys think? I mean, what do you think of superwash wool? Have you spun it before? Is it something you've avoided? What are a couple of fibers that you've compared to each other that you think, are completely different in structure or in characteristics? So we'll kind of give it a few minutes here to let people ask questions if they want to.
And if anybody's having trouble with the chat on the side, either refresh your page, or I am also in the Facebook event, and I can go back and forth if you want to post your questions there too.
Coolio. While we are waiting to see if anybody jumps on, I'll just make the comment that, again, if you want to go check us out on www.feathertailfiberarts.com, we've got our fiber experience boxes up there. Sarah makes one of our most popular sellers, actually, is Sarah's natural wood dizzes for pulling roving or top off of hackles, drum carters, wool combs, whatever you want to pull it off of. And those have been huge sellers for us. They're amazing. They work really well. They have 3 different sizes of hole to pull the fiber through, and they have the threader attached, which is super cool. So check those out. We've got a lot of good stuff on the website. Also,
I have one of my predecessors right here.
Nice. I think I still have one of the first prototypes too in my drawer.
Yeah.
I will be releasing a new collection on April 20th. Called the Crafters Collection. I've been getting a lot of inspiration from all of the weavers, felters, and knitters, crocheters in our group to do some fun things for them. So there's going to be a lot of really fun kits and packs and bags coming in April. So more on that coming. And if you're not already in our Facebook community, go to Feathertail Fibernatics, FIBERNATICS on Facebook, and hang out with us in there, because we've got an amazing group of fiber artists in there who are super supportive. It's an amazing community. We have wool sales on there pretty frequently. So yeah, go check us out on that.
Yeah. And if you guys want to be notified when we go live, make sure that you sign up for our email list. There'll be, if you go to the feathertailfiberarts.com, you'll find it there as well. And if you want to be notified here on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button and turn on your little notifications. There's a bell underneath I think it's right next to when you hit the subscribe button, I believe.
So we're planning on doing this hopefully once a month, and you guys are more than welcome to shoot us ideas for topics and tell us what you want to hear about and what you want to talk about. And please feel free to message us or comment on the video. We do respond. We do like to chat with you guys. So next month, one of the things that I think I want to go over is I'm going to bring in a ton of different breeds of wool and talk about some of the characteristics and uses for each one, because there's such an amazing, I mean, nature is an amazing source of inspiration, and there are so many incredible types of fleeces out there that I think get overlooked a lot. So I'm going to give a shout out to some of those next month.
Awesome. Judy says, nice to meet you, Tori.
Nice to meet you too, Judy.
That's in on the event.
Sounds good.
I did include a link to the Fibernatics group for people who are not already a part of that. It's tons of fun in the group.
Yes.
I think it's fun anyways.
We do have challenges every month too. Well, we're
Yes.
definitely biased, but we do have challenges a lot. Sarah just did a dye challenge that was super fun in February for everybody, where we had to dye a pot of fiber based on a photo, and then everybody shared their pictures of what they came up with, and it was really fun. So check us out for sure on Facebook.
Yeah.
If that is all, then we will see you guys next month. And thank you so much for joining us on Real Fiber Talk Live with Tori and Sarah.
Awesome.
And we will talk to you guys very soon.
You ready?
Bye, everybody.